In this video, I want to show you 5 simple and effective editing techniques within CapCut that can take your videos to the next level. This is part 2 in a series of videos I've made about CapCut editing tips, so if you want to see the first part, I'll link it at the end of this video. So let's jump straight over to CapCut and get started. So the first thing we're going to look at is how to put text behind you. So what you need to do is you need to have a video clip on the timeline, and then what you want to do is you want to hold down Alt and just drag that clip upwards so it creates a copy of it on a new track. Then you want to go to text, you want to grab a default text box and you want to put it in and drop it in between the 2 clips. And then we're going to extend it out. Okay, next thing you need to do is select your top clip, and then we want to go to video, background, remove background, and auto removal. And now you can see suddenly that the text popped up behind me. So let's just adjust that text for a second. And let's just increase the size of it. So now if we play this back, you see the text remains behind me, and I think I'll start walking in a minute. Let's have a look. There we go. Now, this isn't always perfect. You do get a little bit of blurring or a little bit of perhaps artifacts, as they call them, around the image, depending on the background, depending on, say, how much hair you've got, what color it is, and all sorts of other things, your clothing color. But you can see it does a pretty decent job. And that is it. Simple and effective. Let's move on to the next one. So number 2 is keyboard shortcuts. Now, these are super important for saving you time. So I highly recommend that you use some. I'm going to show you my favorite ones here. But this will save you a ton of time and allows you to make more content. Let's have a look at how. Okay. If we use the A and the B keys on the keyboard, we can move between the blade tool, which you can see selected now, and the normal selection tool. So that's A and B. Now, if we wanted to press B and then make a cut, we can, of course, make multiple cuts however we want. But depending on the zoom level and stuff, you're going to perhaps have a problem with the snapping of this, and sometimes you're going to make a cut and then you're going to want to make a cut on another track in the same place, and you're going to be slightly off, and then you're going to have to undo it, and then you're going to have to cut again, and it gets a bit frustrating. And when you've got multiple clips, let's extend this one out, that you need to cut, you've got to make 6 cuts to remove. See, I did it then, I almost missed it. You've got to make 6 cuts to remove this section here. There's a better way. If you hit Control and B, it will make a cut at the selected clip at the playhead. But we can go one better than that. If we put our playhead somewhere random and we hold Control Shift and then hit B, you'll see when I move the playhead out of the way that it's cut through all 3 of them at the same time. And if we have the playhead here, Control Shift B, we make another cut through all of them. And now all we need to do is select that and delete it, and we've got rid of everything. But there's an even easier way sometimes, depending on your purpose. Let me show you. So with this clip selected, if I put the playhead here, I've set up Q and E as my shortcuts here. And if you want to see your shortcuts, you just go to this keyboard icon up here and you can see all your shortcuts. You can look at mine. I'll flick through them quickly now so that you can see them. You can just pause the video and take a look. But most of them are default, to be honest, because they're fairly decent anyway. Q and E will delete to the left or the right of the playhead. So now if I click on the clip, I put my playhead here and I press Q, it's going to delete this small portion of the track. You see that? If I put it here, it's going to delete this portion. Press Q again, it's deleted that. So that prevents you from needing to even make a cut to delete stuff. And of course you can do the same thing here, and you can do the same thing here. The same will go for if you put the playhead here and you press W. Now it's going to delete to the right of the playhead. And if I select this one, it will do that one. And if I select that one, it will do that one. And of course, you can put your playhead there and then do all 3 at the same time if you've selected them all. So Q and W are very useful for deleting things to the left and right. But what if we have a ton of different clips all over the place on this timeline, right? And it's so many clips and they're everywhere. And we want a simple way to move all this stuff. And, you know, we might have clips all over the place like this and they're going off the screen. We can't see everything maybe. So what if we want to select everything after a certain point in the video? If we put our playhead here and we want to select everything to the right there, I have the minus button on my keyboard set up to select everything to the right. You can see now the cursor has changed from the normal selection tool to 2 arrows. And those 2 arrows are pointing to the right. Now, if I press just left click now, it's going to select everything to the right of the playhead. If I press my other hotkey for selecting to the left, which is period or full stop as we call it, you can see now the arrows have changed to point left. And if I now click, it's going to select everything to the left of the playhead. So it's a super simple way of selecting everything and then pressing A, going back to selection tool, and then being able to move everything around. Or here, I can go A again and I can move everything around there. Super simple way of selecting a lot of stuff in certain positions and being able to move it. So if I wanted to link these back together, I can just drop everything there because I've got everything selected. It could be really hard because there might be stuff right over here, you know, on the timeline, really long timeline. You could have stuff right over there. If you don't want to zoom out and then try and draw a box around everything, oh no, look, I've selected the wrong clip. I'll try again. And oh, I've missed something down here or over here. No. Just select everything to the right, press the button, you've done it. Everything's selected. So 2 other shortcuts that are really useful are K and L. L will start playing the footage back at the normal speed or at up to 16 times speed. You can see there. Now this is really useful for scrubbing through your footage to find a certain point, or for watching your footage back faster if you want to, for example, create timestamps for your videos, but you don't want to watch the entire 30-minute video. Maybe you want to speed it up to 2 or 4 times speed and see when it changes to a new section. I'll write down what my timestamp is and then be able to go over to YouTube and put that into your description. So that's one way you can use this K and L. And L will increase the playback speed, as you can see, and K will just completely stop and reset it all. Super useful, especially for things like doing timestamps. Okay, let's look at how to make a speed change in your footage. Okay, so here we have some footage of a boy playing football, and I'm going to show you how to make this change speed. So all we need to do is select the clip, and we want to go up to the top right here, and we hit speed, and we go to curve, and then you've got some defaults. You can make your own custom one, or you can just start off with a default one. I'm going to do that here, so I'm going to select this montage one. And now what we see, if I zoom into this clip, is that we have the points that correspond to the different speed change parts on the timeline here and on the clip. So what we can do in this window up here is we can manipulate these. We can either click at a certain point to put the playhead there, and then we can press plus to add a point, or with a point selected, we can press minus to take it away. For now, I'm just going to use the default ones that we have. So you'll see here that if I manipulate these, obviously up here is faster and down here is slower. If I put this clip back to the beginning, and I like to select smooth slow-mo, and then I also like to select optical flow, which will take a second to process, but it shouldn't take too long for this short clip. And a little tip, if you want to slow things down really effectively, you want to film high frames per second footage, so maybe 60 or even 120, depending on what you use. Normally, if you're normally filming in 25 frames per second, you want to have maybe 50 frames per second footage that you can then slow down by half to 25 frames per second. The reason that you use a high frame rate is that it will make the slowed down footage look better, but I'm just using some stock video here just to show you how it works. All right, so if we press play here, we see that it's slow and it speeds up a lot, and then it goes back to slow again. And of course, we can just manipulate these however we want to create the sort of effect that we want. Looks pretty decent, you know, right out the box, and there's not really much more to it than that. So let's move on to the next one. So in this one, we're going to do some text tracking. I'm going to remove that speed effect, and what we're going to do is we're going to track the motion of this ball. So the first thing we want to do is go up to text. We want to drag a default text onto the timeline, and we want to extend it out to the full range of our clip. Then I'm going to type some text in here. I'm going to type ball, and then I'm going to select, just to make it a little bit more visible, I'm going to select this, and I'm going to move it to the side. Now, all we need to do is hit tracking up the top here, motion tracking. We want to make sure that both of these options are toggled on, and then we want to drag our box to be over the ball, and then all we need to do is press start. You see it's going to process for a second here. All right, now if we deselect everything and just go to the beginning of our clip and we play, you'll see that the ball text is now tracking the ball. Now the two options that you had before, you can change these if you want, if you don't want the scale and the distance to change. I like to have it sort of more dynamic, but it doesn't matter. You can change these and play around with these as much as you like to see the effect. But you can see now we have an animation that tracks the object that we're trying to track, and the text is following it. And you can do this with other objects and stuff as well, of course. Let's look now at the fifth point, which is how to blur a section of the video. I'm going to show you how to do it static, and I'm going to show you how to blur a moving object as well. Let's get into that. Okay, so we have some footage here driving a car, and we can see up here we've got this white house. Now let's imagine that for some sort of privacy reasons, we want to blur out that house. The problem is it starts right off in the distance here, and it moves all the way across the screen to here. So how are we going to do that? Okay, the first thing we're going to do is go up to Effects, and we're going to type in here blur, and hit enter. We're going to grab a blur effect, doesn't matter which one, and we're just going to drop it directly onto the clip that we want to blur. And we'll see a few things happen here. One is that we get this blue marker here, which is the blur effect. And you can see it here, effects blur. And you'll also notice that the entire clip's blurred, which we don't want. Let me just show you a couple of things. So if we have the blur effect selected here, then we can see it. But what if we click away from the clip? Oh, we can't see the blur effect anymore. So to get that back, all we need to do is right click on the clip and then edit effects. And you'll now see that you're back in the editing window for the special effects. So anytime you click away, you just right click and select effects. Now we can adjust the blur amount here. I'm going to just adjust it to 100. Now this is the important part. We want to go to mask, and we want to add a mask, and we want to select a shape. In this case, I'm just going to select a rectangle. Now we don't need it to be so big, so let's just adjust it down a little bit. And so we don't mess our footage up too much. And there we go. And there's the house, okay? So we'll make it smaller for now, a little bit, so we don't blur everything else out. And we'll just place it with our playhead at the beginning of the clip and where we want our blur to begin. All we're going to do now is we're just going to click keyframe here, okay? This little diamond shape next to mask settings. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start to scroll the video forward just by grabbing the playhead and dragging it forward. And we're going to get to a point where we can see the house. There it is, okay? So at this point, we need to start moving the blur effect. So what we want to do is we just want to drag it across until we cover the house again. Hit keyframe again, and that will keyframe this new position. Now what we want to do is continue with that process until we see the house. There it is. Okay. So we want to then drag to cover it up. Now you can adjust the size here. We can start adjusting the size a little bit as well. And that will also get keyframed by hitting that keyframe button. We drag forward again. There's the house. So we can move a little bit to the side now. There we go. And hit keyframe. And we basically just repeat this process until we are at the end of the clip. So I've just done a few there. Let's play it back and see how it goes. Just click away so we can see that the keyframe overlay is not shown. We can just see our blur effect, and let's play and see what happens. So now you can see that the blur effect is moving slowly in time in the house. It's even extending the size there. And now we're going to fail because we didn't do any more keyframes. But you get the point. That is basically how you track an object. And you've just created on here a bunch of keyframes, basically. Now, there's another way to do this, which can be effective sometimes. Let's test it out. I'll show you. So what we can do here is we can select our effect again. And let's imagine that we wanted to switch to this green, whatever it is there, house or whatever it is, and we want to do that. Now, what we can do is with our mask selected and in the right place, we can hit track. And what this is going to try to do is track the object that we've put it over. Now, it depends on the contrast and stuff, how effective this is going to be. So we'll see how this goes. It takes a little bit of time to process, but it's almost done now. And of course, we've made keyframes back here, so it's going to be all over the place. But we can do that and play it back. And it's doing a pretty decent job there, but look, now it's failed. So in my mind, the automatic tracking can work sometimes, but it's better to generally do it manually. And I just wanted to show you that because it adds, as you can see, loads of keyframes here. And it's moving around. You can see, even if we start at the beginning there, look, it's kind of doing a half decent job, but it's created a lot of keyframes. And when we do it manually, we don't need that many. So of course you can go in and you can left click on a keyframe and hit delete, and it will delete that keyframe. And if you hold control down and you click on a few, you can select multiple ones and delete multiple ones at the same time. I find the manual version much better because you're in full control of all the parameters, and the auto tracking is hit and miss, I would say. If you like this video, check out this one here for 5 more tips on how to edit your videos better. Take care. Thanks for watching.